Hi there, welcome to my build of this 45-inch wingspan New Era 3 Revisited. Well, as you can see, it's almost finished. We've got it covered now and there's just one last job that we need to do before we start fitting it out with the servos and putting the engine in and getting it ready for that all-important first flight. And that job we're going to do is just to attach the canopy. Nothing fancy, it's just going to be a quick, simple job hopefully, and but I thought I'd just show you how I'm going to do it. Like I say, nothing fancy, but I thought I would just cover it with a quick video. Well, the canopy I'm going to fit I actually made myself, and if you haven't seen it so far, have a look in the description below this video and it will take you to a previous video I did where I made this from a plastic pop bottle. This is quite a nice one because it's got a little bit of a smoky colour to it rather than being totally clear, and these lines actually translate through just very faintly to the canopy I made, which I actually quite like. I don't know whether they show up on the camera, I think they do. And I made that from a balsa plug where basically I shrunk the bottle around it. But if you haven't seen that video, go back and have a look at that if you wish. So how am I going to fit this? Well, I'm going to be using two methods. I'm going to be screwing it to fit, and I'm going to be sticking it down with tape as well. The screws are to hold it firmly in place, and the tape will be to hopefully stop the ingress of any dirt, oil, fuel, whatever. Now the first thing we need to do is to trim this to size, and there are essentially three places to trim it. We need to trim the length of the side here, the overlap. We want to have that so it comes down far enough that we can put a couple of holes, maybe 3 holes and screws, and actually screw that into the fuselage either side. So that's the one area it needs cutting to size. But the thing we need to do first is to cut around the rim here, or the front and the back, to get that so it fits nice and snug onto the top of the fuselage. And really that just comes from cutting a little bit and practice as to where to cut and how to cut it. But now we've cut the front and the back, and that fits really nice, so it seals all the way around there. There's no big gaps, and that's also true on the back here. And now what we need to do is trim these sides, and I've just marked that overlaps quite a lot, and I've just marked a line there. I don't know whether that will show up, a very faint line there where I need to cut that to bring this down to the appropriate size. And to do that, because this is only a pop bottle, I'm just going to be doing that with a pair of really good sharp scissors. And we need to make sure that we get a really nice straight cut if it's going to look good. There we go. So we've got just a little bit off, and now that should fit on there lovely, with just enough overlap to get a couple of screws in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark the screw holes, and I'm going to drill 3 screw holes on either side and screw that canopy down into place. I've drilled 3 holes now on either side where the screws are going to go, and I'm just holding it in place with a little bit of magic tape just so that doesn't move, and I can now place it on its side and put the screws in. Now the screws I'm using they're like these small servo screws with a cross head and an integral washer. I don't know whether, hopefully you can see that. And these are quite long, and so they will go in quite a long way and get a good purchase into this balsa top, which I think is 10mm, 3/8. And what I might do is, once they've all been put in, take them out individually and put a little bit of CA in and then screw these in, just to make the hole a little bit stronger, or the hold a little bit stronger. So now I've got those screws, sorry, the holes drilled in the plastic. Just going to screw these into place individually. Like I said, it's essential to get those holes drilled in the plastic in the right place so that it doesn't split the plastic. And that's got quite a good hold. Doesn't need to be really tight. I will probably take these out again when I'm doing the taping, but they need to be in for now anyway. I quite like these screws. I just think they give a kind of a little bit of a different look to it. And I know this isn't a fancy way of attaching it, but it's simple and it's effective. And at the end of the day, this plane, it's just a bit of a sports plane to fly around. It's not a scale model. So as long as it's secure and does the job, for me, that's a good way. Right, now let's just turn these over and I'll do the rest. Well, I've now got the canopy secure in place with those 3 screws either side. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tape this section along here, this straight section, so from the back here as far forward as I can comfortably. To do around the curves would be very difficult and isn't really needed, because the muffler is going to be throwing the oil off this way. It's not going to be throwing it on the face here. You may get a little bit on the side of the fuselage here, but if we tape this bit here, that will stop it from seeping up under the canopy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this M3 tape, which is very sticky, quite clear, and I'm just going to use that to tape along there. And as I tape along, I'll probably trim this down so it's not quite as wide as that. Very quick, a very simple way to get our tape a little bit thinner. If we just stick it between 2 blocks and trim it off, and then we can just use a ruler to select the width we want, and we can just run down it. There we go. And now we've got our thinner piece of tape. To put the tape on, I'll obviously need to take out the screws, but I'll do that. I won't do them all at once. I'll just do the first 2 the front 2 first, and then I'll do the back one. The back one will still hold the canopy into place, and I wanted to get the screw holes in first before I taped it, which is why I've done it in this order. There we go. So now I can, let's use that. The less we get our fingers on this, the better. Just going to cut this at an angle. And that fades into the background so we can hardly see it. I'll get a pair of forceps, just lift this up while I take the screw out. And we now don't need to worry about, there we go, and as I said, the tape just becomes invisible, and now we can put our screws back in. Right, we now have the canopy nice and secure. That's not going anywhere, with those screws, 6 screws holding it, and a little bit of tape down the side, just to hopefully prevent the ingress of any oil that may stray from the muffler. So it's nice to get that secure now, and like I said, it's not a scale model. It's just something that we're going to thrash around the skies. So I think that's a great job for what we're building and what we want. Well, the next job, we need to get all these servos fitted out and get it ready for that first flight. So the next video we'll come back and we'll have a look at the finished plane and see how it looks.